Hello!
Realize I'm still wearing my seatbelt. Time out.
So you don't want to fall out of the review?
Yeah, no, I don't want to. I don't want to miss a thrilling moment of this.
We went and saw The War Room because apparently when Brad and David saw it, they thought, you know what would be hilarious?
If we just
If we send Sarah to go to it.
completely take the piss on our friends.
And here we are. So, I'd rather watch this movie than Saving Christmas. No, that's not true. Because Saving Christmas is bad enough to be hilarious, and this wasn't enjoyable, but, like, I came in expecting, like, a train wreck, and this was just kind of bad.
Yeah, this was just... This is a terrible fucking movie. It's actually really... What's the word?
I heard off of the boys that it
preachy?
was misogynistic, but I felt like this movie had a way worse opinion of men than it did of women.
I can see both angles of that.
Because, like, on the surface of it, yeah, it's like, okay, women, submit to your man. If he's an abusive a-hole, then, lock yourself in your closet and pray to Jesus to make it all go away. But, like, I feel that it was less that.
I feel that was a terrible message.
All men are inhuman monsters, incapable of rational thought or human empathy. So, women, you'll have to actually call upon a divine intervention and Jesus teaching you, like, black belt level passive aggression in order to make him communicate with you as a person. Also, men are incapable of controlling their base desires unless God sends them food poisoning.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was definitely about to slay that fucking hood rat until
He was.
like...
It wasn't even like a moment of realization that made him stop. It was God making him barf.
Because, I mean, he was down. Like, he was down to fucking pound. Like, he was going to take her to the boneyard.
They were sitting at, they were sitting down to a salacious meal, and she's like, I would like a glass of my favorite wine. And he's like, then I'll buy
sure,
you one.
we can do
and she's
that.
like, it's at my apartment. And he's like, yes. Barf, 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 barf. I've learned the error of my ways.
Well, we didn't actually see that part. Honestly, we as the viewer are even still taking it on his word.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he barfed and then came back and took her to the boneyard.
Whew. Wow, that was... All right.
Really Jesus-y, like in my stomach.
Splash some water on my face here. Get to her place, like, hey girl, I need to hit the bathroom real quick. Like, down some, like, Mylanta and just...
and then take her to the boneyard.
Take her to the boneyard.
So
it's the last exit past Pound Town.
Like, all the female characters in this movie are very poorly acted and poorly written, but they actually felt like people to me, whereas the men just felt like unfeeling, uncaring monsters. Or sobbing, broken man-children.
Like, everyone in this seemed like a broken, like...
So much crying in this movie.
But, like... I wouldn't say that, like, the men come across as unfeeling monsters. It's just the husband that you're not supposed to like until he realizes that Jesus is Jesus and...
Well, let's break it down. Because men-wise, we've got old black lady's son, who we don't see until, like, the last 5 minutes of the movie. He's just basically like, here I am, bye! There's the husband, who's a monster. There's Tom, who's a monster and a man-child. There's other boss Coleman, who basically
is Rob Reiner.
So unfamiliar with, like, doing the right thing that the fact that the husband eventually does the right thing blows his fucking mind.
You stole.
Shows up at his house in the middle of the night like,
stole from
I've
my
been
company.
Of nothing else for 2 days. Wow, who would even do that? How? Jesus? Was it Jesus?
He looked like he hadn't changed clothes either, so I don't think
he's like stumbling through the streets. Like, why did he bring it back? Who would do do such a thing?
Like, yeah, because, like, you lied to me. You've been lying to people. You've been basically cheating us out of giving you extra money while you actively steal from the company and sell it, which is illegal, for extra profit on top of your
Ill-gotten gains.
Your regular gains, your deceitful gains, your ill-gotten gains, all these gains. But, I mean, you brought some of it back, so...
Pay us back and we'll be squaresies.
Yeah.
And then Tom's like, "Rawr, rawr, 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 rawr." And then we meet Tom later.
Tom looked like...
a grown fucking man.
Tom looked like the guy that they use
it.
Tom looked like the guy that they use in, like, those Getty images, like stock photos of office meetings for, like, the douchebag boss.
Yeah,
like, he's the one that's like...
and a bow tie.
Yeah, he's the one in, like, the
kind of Seth Morrissey in the face.
Like, the clip art images of, like, the boss going, like...
And so we come across Tom, a grown man, apparently single man, who is incapable of changing a tire.
He's single.
I can change a goddamn tire, and I'm basically inept when it comes to cars. As it would take me a couple minutes to figure out where the fuck my jack is, but once I got that down, and he's just standing there in the street screaming at AAA over his phone, like, how dare you say it's going to take 45 minutes? And then, you know...
He's got to go places and buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell.
Businessman doing businessman things. So, you know, like, the female characters made a lot of decisions that I would not have made, but they seemed like decisions that I could see people who aren't me and haven't had my life experiences making. Like, if that man was my husband, I would leave him bound and gagged on the side of the road. She decided not to go that route. She instead decided to basically give herself counseling and meditate to figure out a way to save her marriage. And it worked for her, and that to me is not misogyny. That's just a woman making a decision that I wouldn't make.
Yeah, I mean,
she had the whole, like, it's hard to submit to my man. I watched the first little bit of Brad and David's review last night to kind of prepare myself, but then I stopped because I wanted to still be surprised. And something that Brad mentioned is that she had the line, you know, I'm finding it so hard to submit to my husband right now. And yeah, that seems misogynistic, but it's also one of the tenets of some sects, some denominations of Protestantism, is the whole, like...
branches of the cult.
Yeah, branches of the cult, where, you know, it's... like the man is Jesus and the woman's the church, and that's how they should define their relationship, and the woman worships
I've heard
the
that
man.
speech before.
Yeah, it sounds really familiar, doesn't it? And so, like, the woman is supposed to worship the man as the church worships Jesus, but Jesus must take care of the church and respect the church, because without the church he is nothing. And, like, that definition of submission is, again, not my bag, but it's something that some people live by, you know.
Crazy people.
I'm
an atheist, I don't give a fuck.
My main issue with this movie is how poorly it's acted, the goofy-ass faces of the actors that they hired, and the audience that was in the theater with us. I don't know how crowded it was for Brad and David's, but we had a big old group, and he was behind me. I went in to get his seats, and I saw the big group, and I'm like, oh no, they're gonna hear us. They're gonna hear us, and they're gonna get mad. So I grabbed us some seats, like, off in the back corners. So if we started getting snarky or giggling, we wouldn't.
There was,
ruin the movie for the rest
probably
of them.
like 25, 30 people in there.
And they were.
This has been out for a week, and we went on a Wednesday.
They were, like, verbally agreeing with stuff in the movie, like, oh yeah, or, I see what's coming. Or that one part where at the very end, there's one part where the husband asks the wife, what do you want? And she's like, well, I want ice cream sundae, I want my feet rubbed. And he's like, I'm not fucking rubbing your feet. And I'm like, I hate this guy. But at the end of the movie, he sits her down, and he has, like, a big bucket of water, and this old guy, like, a little bit away from us, just starts laughing. Like, I see what's coming. He's gonna rub her feet. This is rich.
He was really getting into it, and there were a couple people that actually made, like, oh, whenever he actually put her feet in the bucket. I'm like, what the fuck did you think she was gonna...
Well, I was muttering, in the butt, in the butt. I was pretty bored at that point. This movie was 5 hours long.
That seems accurate.
Brad told me earlier, he's like, now don't tell Brian, but there's going to be about 3 or 4 endings to this movie.
There were so many times when I just thought this shit was just gonna be done with. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna turn on the car real quick, and then I'm gonna roll down the windows because it is getting toasty in here.
But
You keep talking.
But yeah, with the audience, yeah, I was kind of slightly surprised when I walked into the theater because I didn't know where the fuck you were. I walk in the theater, and it's not one of like the stadium ones. Like you just like it's an old school one. We saw it over at Parkway. So you walk in the back, and then there's just all like the sloping down rows of seats. So I just walk in the door, and all I see are the backs of like 30 old fuckers' heads. And I'm like, whoa, that's a lot of people. And then I barely looked over and saw you sitting in the fucking dark up in a corner.
I was hiding.
But the problem is that even though we strategically picked the back and, you know, off to the side away from anyone else, all of the old people didn't walk any farther than the closest rows to the back. So we were still like 15 feet away tops from everyone who was legitimately there to watch this movie.
It was the farthest away from them I could figure out without sitting way up in the front, and then they'd see me eating my Wendy's chicken nuggets.
Also, she snuck in chicken nuggets.
I snuck in chicken nuggets. Well, we were I was hungry. And it was...
I ate in the car.
I ate in the car, too! I still had chicken nuggets left. I was cutting my purse and around the movie theater. Considering how much money we spend at a movie theater in any given year, I think that I'm well within my rights to sneak in some goddamn chicken nuggets.
Could you do like Dave and just hold them in your hand and walk in?
I'm not that sneaky.
I can't count the number of times like we've been standing there like talking in the lobby, and I just see like that he's just holding a bottle of Pepsi in his hand. Like it's like dude, like shouldn't you be subtle about that? He's like, I don't fucking care. Drink.
Glip, glip, glip.
And he goes back to holding it. I'm like, no one ever stops him, so I don't fucking know. But yeah, so I was a little nervous because like every time I'd see something funny, and my normal reaction would be like, "Oh man, I should crack a joke at this." It's like, hey, what? Never mind.
I said, I think they're singing Crazy Face. There's a song that plays during a montage in this movie, and it's like, you got to have crazy face. And after he said, I'm pretty sure they're saying crazy face. That was, I couldn't stop laughing. Luckily, the music was very loud.
But yeah, the movie is just it's very trite, but the acting is dog shit.
Yeah, and like the faces this woman kept making. I think she was going for like a Lorelai from Gilmore Girls, sort of like grown-ass woman acting like a tiny little baby.
Well, and she
was talking about like putting the whipped cream up on top of her ice cream and then like bloop like a one cherry. I want like a one cherry on my ice cream.
It was very fucking weird that she was suddenly acting like she was 5 years old. Mm-hmm. Especially considering the fact that she vaguely, like, she had a passing resemblance for like Michelle Obama.
I could see that. Yeah, or like one of the Williams
with just
sisters.
Like really like shitty
like strong
extensions,
strong features. But like she had those like when a strong featured woman makes faces like muscles start popping out in areas that you don't think that there should be muscles. Like
she goes to cry and it looks like her face is like a fucking wood carving. Mm-hmm. It's like, what did they do to you? Like, does she look like one of those faces that people, like, carve into, like, the sides of trees?
And there's so much crying in this movie. Like, this woman cries. Her husband cries pretty much for the entire second half of the movie.
Yeah, once he's like, I'm a bad man. And then Jesus. He just cries constantly.
Jesus, help me. Beep. Why?
I'm just looking very red.
It's because there's a red light on it. Perfect.
Yeah, I don't know.
Should we turn the red lights off on yours? Hang on. Is that better? Now you're blue.
Perfect. Double D up.
It's
We'll figure this out by the time this is over with.
this is an important part of the act. No, keep it. Stay right there. Perfect.
No, it's shining right in my fucking eyes. I'm like, I can't see.
We're used to like staring into the flashlight off the back of an iPhone, so this is so much better.
The lights in my car work.
Yeah, the lights in my car work too. It's just they're not like for filming. They're for driving, because it's a car. It's very poorly acted. It's very poorly written. Again, I didn't find it misogynistic. That's just my take on it, is that it hated men way more than it hated women.
But yeah, I can see where if you weren't expecting it to go that way, because like it basically it makes it seem like if you're a woman and have faith, then you should let a man do whatever the fuck he wants, because God will get him in the end.
But the thing is that she asked her, okay, so do you still love him? And she said, yeah, it's just buried under layers and layers of frustration. And that's when she recommended the war room. I feel like if she had said, do you still love him? And she said, no, he ate up all my love with verbal abuse and stealing shit and probably cheating on me, then it would have been, then God wants you to get a divorce. She made the conscious decision to fight for her marriage after figuring out what her feelings still were and whether it was a marriage that she wanted to fight for. It wasn't a God insists that this is the course you take. It was, you need to decide what course you take and then ask God for his help in that situation. Also, you need to stop whining about your husband, because that doesn't do nothing for nobody.
You know what I think this movie could have done with really, really amped it up, though?
A good fight.
A larger focus on the Double Dutch Championship finals.
So just make it like a Step It Up movie, but with a subplot about Jesus taking the wheel?
Yeah.
Okay. Double Dutch is interesting. Like, I've never been able to... I was indoorsy as a kid, so like mastering regular old jump rope was kind of beyond my scope. And Double Dutch always seemed to me like wizard magic. Because like there's just all these ropes flying, and then you just like jump in and you're like, yeah, I'm doing it!
You're more of a single Dutch kind of gal.
I'm more of a no Dutch, like Dutchless. I like Dutch free. But, so they entered, like, this Double Dutch competition because their daughter was real big into Double Dutch, and her dad ended up joining her Double Dutch team, which I would have thought was against the rules until the Speed Demons showed up, which is a Double Dutch team comprised entirely of middle-aged men.
But yeah, like, which I can only assume they're an actual, like, jump rope.
I assume that
crew.
I think all those crews were actual Double Dutch crews. It reeks to me of the dance party at the end of Saving Christmas, in that I'm fairly certain that the whole reason there's a Double Dutch subplot is because the guy who did this movie knew a bunch of Double Dutch people. His
kids was probably in it.
Yeah.
Like, we'll just bring everybody down to the rec center. We'll set up a camera.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. Prepare your routines. You guys are the Speedmeister, and you guys are the Whippet Twins.
Yeah, like next up, the Speed Angels. It's like, ooh. And then it pans over and it's a bunch of guys my age. It's like,
the ropes are going the slowest. It was like tip, 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 tip. And they won. They were the first place winners. Like after
because they were going so slow, all they kept doing was just like standing there doing like standing flips.
Which was impressive, don't get me wrong. But like after the Comets won second place, I'm like, if they cut away without me finding out who won this goddamn thing, I would be genuinely upset.
There was a long linger there that I thought it was going to be like, in second place, these guys!
That's
and then
what's
fuck
important.
off. It's like,
who won? I want to know, like genuinely want to know.
I was invested in that more than anything else in this movie. It's the only thing that wasn't screaming at me.
That little old lady made me laugh a couple times. She was making like grandma jokes, and I'm a sucker for grandma jokes. Like, oh, you got you one of them smartphones. I've been meaning to get me one of those. My phone just makes phone calls. I guess that makes it a dumb phone. And I'm like, hee hee hee. Oh, grandma.
Meanwhile, the actual audience for the movie, they got a good one out of that. That was a knee slapper.
I found her adorable. I don't think that wig was doing her any favors, but
yeah, it's a fucking god-awful movie. I honestly
it was
think
terrible. I didn't find it like...
I honestly think that the morals that it teaches are frighteningly skewed.
How so?
Well, just the way that it says, like, just ignore everything that's happening in your life, because as long as you're praying in your closet, something good will have to happen. Or you'll just be so blindly going by the whole faith thing that it's like, I guess it's just Jesus' will to only make me barren.
The thing is that, like, first of all, it's no more skewed than The Secret.
Well, I never said that wasn't.
And second of all, I feel like it was more of like less of a stop fighting with your husband and more of a go pray to Jesus, and it happened to give her a better outlook on things, which made her interact more positively and healthfully with her husband, and that was what improved their marriage. It wasn't that she was ignoring the problem, it was that she was changing her perspective on the problem.
Compartmentalizing.
I don't understand what you mean by that.
Like, she was basically just like, it's like, oh man, my marriage is going to shit. I'll just put this in a little box and put it in my prayer corner, and then I'll act like everything's fine. Like, husband comes home from a trip, like, looks at, like, his wife's phone, like, oh, dag. She knows I was about to hit some ass.
Yeah, the second the man looked at my goddamn phone without my goddamn permission, bound and gagged by the side of the road. I'm not saying that I agreed with those decisions.
Then goes in the other room for dinner, acting like nothing's wrong, despite the fact that he knows the jig is up.
She's leaving it to Jesus.
And she, like, sets food on the table. He switches it because he's just, oh, damn, she's gonna actually murder me.
She's trying to murder me.
And then she acts like a fucking child instead. Like, I want an ice cream sundae. Yeah, with like 3 scoops, whipped cream, and a cherry. It's like, and a foot rub. I ain't rubbing your feet. Okay. Like, there's also a weird subplot throughout the entire movie about how this woman has really sore feet and they smell terrible.
Not just her feet, but her breath. That was the main thing that pissed me off about the way that this woman was portrayed, is that there was like a running joke about how awful she smelled. Like,
well, I think the breath thing was because she slept in her closet.
Still, though, like the whole...
She got that morning breath. She got that prayer breath.
God, this woman's stinky. Oh, she's so stinky. Her husband's wearing a gas mask while he's rubbing her feet. Or, like, she was setting up in the prayer closet, and she set, like, a beanbag down on the chair, and then she pulled in, like, a bag of chips and a soda, and then she's like, oh, no, it's my shoes. My shoes smell so bad. And then the children walk by, and they're like, ew, Mom, what smells so bad? She's like, it's my shoes. Shut up.
Then there's even a scene where she's in the other room with all of her shoes, cleaning them, and her husband walks in from a business trip. He's like, oh, hey, honey, what are you doing? He's like, oh, just doing this. Like, what the fuck is that smell? Like, oh, it's my shoes.
Take that shit outside. Take that junk outside, excuse me.
It just throws all of her shoes outside. It's like...
The husband has this weird moment where he's talking to his weird, doofy friend, and the friend's like, so how's your marriage going?
Is simultaneously way too, like, street acting for this. Mm-hmm. And then...
He's a Christian EMT.
Way too, like, up with Jesus. He's like, oh, come on, dog. No, you can't be playing like that. Jesus knows. I mean, bruh, what you doing?
I'll see you in church. Man, I want to see a little more church in you.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
But, like, yeah, so, he's, like, a step away from, like, in any other movie, he'd be, like, just, like, the, token black guy just throwing out fucking lines like that. He's the token black guy in a black movie, which is impressive. But then, yeah, at the same time, like, he's overly, like, throwing out, like, weird, like, analogies and euphemisms and talking all, like, just completely, like, going into the whole, like, bruh, I mean, come on, bruh. Church, though.
I was more bringing
But, like, what that God do? What that God do? Bruh.
I was more bringing it up because of the fake swearing, and that was the most noticeable part, is when they were talking about
Fake swearing.
the fake swearing, because they're having this conversation, and Doofy Friend is like, oh, how are things with your wife? And the other guy is just, it's like, bruh, dude, though, what's going on with your wife? He's like, man, I am sick of her junk. What? You married your wife junk and all, my friend. They wanted to say shit. They wanted to say shit so bad. Sick of her junk.
But then it also had no problem, like, making, like, sex jokes. It's like whenever she was complaining to old lady at that one scene. It's like, he ain't getting it at home, so if he ain't getting it there, he getting it somewhere.
Uh-huh.
I.e., his dick wet.
Yep. In the butt. I thought that, okay, there's one part in the movie that I have to mention, because it pissed me off probably more than any of the rest of the movie. And it's, first of all, because of the sheer fucking arrogance of it, and second of all, because it's logistically complicated. So,
I'm invested in this as well. I don't know where you're going.
So the main character lady, the one whose marriage is having problems, she's a real estate agent, and she goes to visit this little old lady. It seems like it's kind of a planned meeting, but it's pretty loose and casual. There's taking pictures of the house and setting up the pricing. So the little old lady sits her down. They're having some coffee, and she says to the woman, "So how's your prayer life? Would you call it cold or hot?" And first of all, I thought that they were doing like a sex joke, but apparently not. The lady's like, "Well, I pray every once in a while, so I wouldn't say that it's hot, but I wouldn't say that it's cold. It's kind of in the middle." And the lady says, "All right." So she brings her out her coffee, and she's like, "You want any sugar or cream?" "No, I like it black." Weird emphasis. And so she takes a sip.
Very strong emphasis on that.
Very strong emphasis on the blackness that she enjoys her coffee. But then she takes a
like
sip.
Her men.
And she's like, "Miss Cleo," or whatever the lady's name is.
Miss Cleo.
"Miss Cleo, why do you take your coffee lukewarm?" And Miss Cleo's like, "Oh, I don't. I like my coffee hot." Which, first of all,
Like her men.
fuck you, bitch. No, she was doing like on the whole prayer
I know.
life thing. So, first of all, fuck you, bitch. We just met. And second of all, does she just like keep
Old coffee.
an old coffee and then put it in the nuker for like 45 seconds to just get it lukewarm? Like, she must have had a cup sitting aside. And then, after the woman gave her response, which was ad hoc, and that's probably not the right word for that, it was like off the cuff, just an off the cuff remark, went in the kitchen, nuked a cup of coffee for 45 seconds, and then came back out with it, specifically so she could get that dig in.
Yeah, I mean, she had to have had old coffee sitting around.
Because she brewed a new pot.
As soon as she came in.
She did. So where did she get that coffee from?
Maybe it was a chilled glass?
You can't, like,
Which means that she kept a
maybe she put some ice cubes in it?
but then it
But
would
then
just...
you'd notice that there's ice cubes in your coffee. It shouldn't bother me that much, but it does.
What's it?
Maybe she had like a couple different degrees of coffee, like cold through almost hot, like just sitting on the counter prepared for when she'd ask that question. So depending on the answer this woman gave her, she could select which temperature of coffee she was going to bring out to her.
Maybe she had more than one carafe. And there was one sitting around from the day before.
Yeah.
I know plenty of lazy people who like brew a pot of coffee and then like not finish it, and then like the next morning it's like, meh.
Yeah, so then they take the carafe out of the coffee maker, set it carefully aside on the kitchen counter, take their spare carafe out of the cabinets, and brew themselves a fresh pot. I know people like this, yes. Look, I've thought about this for a while.
Well, more than anything, all it did is just make me think of like a much better version of that from The Office. It was during the season that had Spader on there as Robert
Bobby California.
And, he shows up at the office and Aaron asks him it's like, "Oh, can I get you anything cold to drink?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll just take some coffee." And she comes back with like day old coffee and gives it to him. He's like, "Oh, what the fuck? What?" It's like, "Why did you just give me terrible old coffee. And she's like, oh, I asked if you wanted something cold, and you said coffee, so I didn't want to bring you any hot coffee.
Poor Aaron.
It's like, I just didn't like this movie at all. Like, it didn't help, like, the entire time I was sitting there with excruciating pain in one of my teeth.
Yeah, I felt kind of terrible because at first I was like kind of jockeying for position on the armrest because I like to have at least half of the armrest to myself, and then I'm like, come on, man, give me half of the armrest. I look over and you look so sad, and I'm like, you can have the whole armrest, man. It's all yours. You can have this one too, Clank.
I had to watch the movie with an armrest on my lap.
Then I remember that your tooth hurt, and I'm like, armrest achieved.
Like, I had to stop several times during the movie to put, like, Orajel in my mouth. So then, sitting there watching a mediocre to bad movie was then propelled from that to terrifyingly bad.
Mm. Someone got you a cup of ice water. Did that help at all?
It did. I held it up against my face.
Well,
for the
what I
whole
originally
movie.
went out there is I went out and I asked, because the little counter people, and there were some girls, and I know sometimes girls just keep some ibuprofen just in case. So I went out. I'm like, do any of you guys have some ibuprofen I could bum off of you? I'll give you money for it. And the girl says, real snotty, no, I'm sorry, we don't sell that here. Like, I just sat there like, because I'm trying to figure out a nice way of saying, bitch, I know you don't sell ibuprofen.
It's like, oh, really? Is it not in the little case here in between, like, the fucking snow caps and, like, the cookie dough bite things?
My bad. So I just asked them for some ice water.
Do they still sell snow caps? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, hell yeah, they do. Snow caps are delicious.
Okay. It's like, is it right here next to the Good and Plenty's?
They still sell Good and Plenty's.
Which is weird. Who buys them?
People who want to lick them and throw them at the screen. We used to do that with jujubes. Did anyone else do those with jujubes? You like lick the flat side and you throw them, and if you hit it just right, it'll stick on the movie screen.
We're taking a poll on who still does this.
Who still licks
If
jujubes?
you do, write your congressman and send it to them.
If you still do, write in the comments below.
No, send it to your congressman.
And then send a copy of the comments, like print it off of your computer, and send that to your congressman. We have an accord. Are we done talking about the movie yet?
I was done talking about this movie when we started talking about this movie. It's so
I thought it's dumb.
goddamn terrible. And I still don't understand how this was second at the box office.
It's because there's nothing else good out.
At the box office.
Apparently, We Are Your Friends, as Brad was saying, has got the worst release of any movie released in more than 2,000 theaters.
Yeah, it debuted.
It wasn't that bad.
It debuted at number 13. It made like $1.8 million.
Just put more Jesus references into it.
Which, I mean, to be fair, it only cost like $6 million to make, from what I was reading. So it's not like it's a huge profit loss. Mm-hmm. But it was a wide release. Like, it wasn't like a limited. Like, if it was a limited release, it would have been nothing that anybody would have given a shit about. But as a wide release over 2,000 screens, per screen, it averaged, because I think it was like 2,300 screens.
Uh-huh.
Per theater, it averaged $700 over the weekend.
And we helped.
Yeah. We were a considerable percentage of that as two people who went to see it.
Yeah! Plus, I listened to the soundtrack the other day on Spotify, so I'm moving in that direction as well. You're thinking of Miami to Ibiza again.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm thinking of a lot of things that aren't the movies we've been going to see.
So this movie, it was dumb. I don't think it was dumb enough to warrant sending a second group of people to go see it, but there you go.
If you needed two sets of people to warn you against watching this, you're an idiot.
I've sweated off a lot of our previews. But let's go. We got 90 Minutes in Heaven, which is that movie.
Which I always say is better than 7 Minutes in Heaven. It's a common thing that I say.
I remember you saying that just last week. Because we were talking about the movie 90 Minutes in Heaven, and Brian said, you know what I always say? Better than 7 Minutes in Heaven. And then we laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed.
That's the only thing I can think with that title. It's like, were they going for like a 7 minutes in
What they're
heaven
going
joke?
for, like a making out, dry humping in a closet joke for a Christian movie.
Which one? Oh, that was the one about like a guy who like is in like
He
a
died.
terrible car wreck, and then
He died, and then a guy came. He's like, I would pray for him, and like kind of crawled into the wreckage, and he was like, and then he's alive, and then he was in a coma, and everyone kept coming in. So it's kind of like that that movie with
While
Hayden
You Were
Panettiere. No, although kind of like, yes, kind of like While You Were Sleeping, because while he was in a coma, Sandra Bullock came in and fell in love with his brother.
which
I love that
bitch.
movie so much. Look, she didn't even know him. She was just pretending she could go in and see him because she felt like it was her fault that he got hit by the train because she was waving at him. She finally got up the courage. Peter Gallagher.
I know.
Yeah, finally got
seen
up the
it.
courage. She's like, hey, I've had a crush on you for a while. He's like, hey, wham. Besides, Bill Pullman was a way better person.
I'm just saying they put that yellow stripe there for a fucking reason.
Yeah, it's hard to look when you're getting hit on by Sandra Bullock. I'm getting eaten up. Let's hurry up. Okay, Woodlawn? Something.
Yes.
It's something lawn. And I
Woodlawn.
don't even remember what movie that was.
That was that one that was like, Remember the Titans?
Oh, that's right.
Assuming that it was.
It's like a football team that's for a public school, and they decide that they're going to pray to Jesus across the board, and people are getting upset because it's a public school. And I'm inclined to agree with the people,
I mean, yeah, I mean,
because it's a public school.
it's not a parochial school. I mean, that's actually a thing that's against the school
It's against
rules.
the rules.
I mean,
what
that's
if-
not even trying to be a dick. Like,
What if, some little
I don't
atheist
even.
boy wants to join the football team, and they're like, you can if you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior.
But what if I don't, though?
Well, then we'll start losing.
I guess I'll
Sticker, sticker.
I guess I'll just
Cross.
quit the team. Go team, go! I guess.
There's this horrible moment where there's like this woman in the audience, and they're asking her like, oh, you know, how's your faith? And she's like, oh, I was an atheist last week. The kids are leading me. And I went, ah, only quieter because it was a theater full of people.
I have to wonder if that's about Woodlawn, Illinois. Is
You
that one of the
think?
suburbs?
Google it. Are you thinking of Wooddale?
I don't know. Google it.
Your phone is like right there.
So's yours. I can see it.
Well, I have to keep reading off
Yeah, whatever.
stuff.
I'm not that concerned. It's basically Remember the Titans, except, but the assistant coach is Jesus.
Yes, they the Good Dinosaur, which is that Pixar movie that looks like it might be bad, but it's got a really kickin' song during the preview, which I like.
I wasn't a fan of the song or the preview. It honestly looks really.
Like the art style
Crappy.
doesn't look very good, and maybe
Honestly,
I
like until it said like from the people who brought you like Finding Nemo, I'm like, wait, this is a Pixar?
yeah, it's a Good
like,
Dinosaur. We've been getting previews for it for a while.
It's the first one I've seen of it. Like, it looks like something that like. Animation wise, it looks like something off the fucking dollar rack, like some like knockoff thing. Like, it's like, oh, from someone who saw cars, here's automobiles. You know,
My thought
like one of
was
those
that,
weird like fucking Brazilian animation ones that like Ed had, like Ratatouille.
Ratatouille. My thought was that at first I was trying to figure out why they were showing this preview in front of the Jesus movie, and then I thought that perhaps it's because it shows dinosaurs and cavemen cohabitating in the same era.
Which, yeah, that also kind of got me. Whenever it showed a dinosaur movie trailer, I'm like,
We don't believe.
are they taking the piss? Is they,
No, it's with cavemen. So like then Jesus comes out and rides the dinosaur.
apparently.
God, it's so hot. Captive. That's the one where like the big black guy captures like a tiny Christian woman and she teaches him about Jesus.
It's no good deed, except apparently it's just a good deed.
Uh-huh.
That's what I got from it. Black guy breaks into a house and then
Like-
converts to Christianity.
Yeah, and then they
Run
Must-
away together?
Yeah, they go. There's like they're in a car at some point, and he's like shooting out the window, and she's still driving. I don't know. Maybe he converted her. That he named me Malala, which is about that girl that won the Nobel Peace Prize.
I have no jokes for that.
Nope.
Fucking good for you, man. Girl, man. Bro.
Good for you, bro. You win them Peace Prizes.
You got that shit, bro.
Okay, the 33, which this was a way Jesus-ier preview for this movie than I had previously saw. Because the one I saw before was just them trapped and then trying to get dug out, and this one was all like, you need to pray to Jesus, and they're like, I don't know how, and he's like, Jesus doesn't care.
Jesus don't give no shits about you not knowing.
We'll make you a tiny little war room out of rocks.
Go sit in the closet and pray.
You'd be building a war room out of rocks. But they'll
pray
do
to
like,
Jesus, little girl.
They'll do like we used to do. Did you ever do this when you were growing up? Is when you're playing house, you like make a drawing of a house on the ground with rocks, and then you pretend that they're different rooms. Or I used to do that, and so they'll use that to make them closets, and then they could go in the rock closet and pray to Jesus.
So instead of basically playing a house, you were playing like archaeologist who's living in the ruins of a city they dug up that's just a series of waist-high walls.
Yes. Well, instead of waist-high, it's ankle-high.
It's like, oh, you can tell this would have been the...
This is the vestibule, and this is the war room.
The war closet.
Yes. Okay, and then Risen, which is the Jesus Manhunt movie starring Tom Felton. Which is the first time I've seen this preview, because I turned to Brian and I'm like, Draco Malfoy? He's like, I don't think so, and so I googled it and it was Draco Malfoy.
Yeah, wasn't it also like, it looked like Ray Fiennes' brother, Joseph Fiennes, and like Cliff Curtis, like it.
I don't know any of those people. Were they in a Harry Potter movie? I know that Ralph Fiennes was.
His brother was not, though. He was in
Gary Fiennes.
One of the seasons of American Horror Story. He's in that show. What was it?
You played Voldemort.
Flash Forward.
Voldemort.
I'm sad now. Not Voldemort.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I probably don't have to see these unless the boys decide they're so dumb that they need to send more people to them.
Risen seemed like it was like The Fugitive.
Yeah, except it was Jesus. And I don't remember the part of the Jesus story where the Romans decided to make absolutely extra sure that Jesus doesn't raise from the dead. We're gonna bolt the door shut, put like seals on it, and have a guy guard it.
I think there were supposed to be guards, but...
I thought the ladies were just sitting outside all crying styles, and that's why when Jesus came out, they were the first ones he saw,
saying,
and he's like,
ladies, don't be crying styles.
Go tell everybody, and they're like, okay, Jesus.
Run, go tell it on the mound.
Run, tell Dad.
Then he took the Stratoturin and he Superman that hoe.
I was like, oh! That's how you Superman a hoe, right? You're just like, wee!
Yes.
Yes. I have to imagine that that's what it is. And an Alaska pipeline is when you go and you save a penguin. After you have sex. Just scrub it clean with some Dawn. I'm so hot. Okay, we're done. Right?
Yeah, we don't have to talk about this movie anymore.
No, there's some movie tomorrow. I can't remember what it is, but the upshot is I have to go see it. Good night!